Monday marked the start of new rules on what baristas are allowed to wear under those famous green aprons. The company requiring workers to wear plain black t-shirts and khaki, black, or blue denim bottoms. Starbucks Workers United, the union representing workers at 570 of Starbucks' 10,000 company-owned U.S. stores, says the dress code should be subject to collective bargaining. They filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board over the company's alleged failure to bargain.
Finding out last minute that you need to go out and purchase a brand new dress code that you can't afford, it's completely out of touch. Most of us are paycheck to paycheck. We can't afford to go out and buy new shoes, new pants, and new shirts.
Doesn't look like you're struggling. Looks like you can afford to miss a meal or two and buy that uniform.
We need a livable wage. Talks were going great, and now they're not. And Starbucks just continues to make changes that have nothing to do with our working conditions.
In a statement to NBC News, Starbucks said, quote, it would be more productive if the union would put the same effort into coming back to the table that they're putting into protesting wearing black shirts to work.
This is what happens when you hire nothing but college graduates with gender studies degrees. This is exactly what happens. Now you have these people crying about a uniform. They're crying about having to wear a black shirt and jeans. It can be black, blue, or khaki pants. That's insane that these people are actually crying about that. Do you mean to tell me that these people don't actually have some black jeans, a black shirt, some blue jeans that they can wear under the apron? They've never owned a black item in their lives. And they're crying about having to buy a new one. You can go to Walmart and get that stuff for cheap. You can get a pack of shirts for probably under $10. Black shirts. Just so you can go to work. It's not that impossible. But again, this is what happens when you create a culture of entitlement at the workplace. This is what these colleges are breeding nowadays. These colleges are breeding entitled people who have never had to work a hard day in their lives, have never had to struggle with anything in their lives. And so when they're treated like this, a simple uniform change will get them to melt down.
Now we have to purchase new shirts and shoes to be compliant with the new policy. Why doesn't Starbucks do the right thing and provide a stipend for these newly required items? We have several partners who have spent lots of money on Starbucks branded shirts, merch, etc. and are no longer allowed to wear them. Putting Starbucks merch that will no longer be allowed on a clearance sale before announcing it is the perfect cherry on top. Many Starbucks partners feel scammed by this new dress code policy since we forked over money to Starbucks from our already too small paychecks to purchase shirts that we were in dress code until just this week. Brian Nickel, you have stated your goals are to improve customer wait times and service, describing this agenda as back to Starbucks. We, the partners, are informing you that writing messages on cups and implementing drab uniforms will not restore Starbucks' slumping sales or increase customer satisfaction. Signed, the striking partners at CERTA.
You know what the crazy part about this is? Is here they're complaining about the shirts, having to buy new stuff. Now, I get it that that's wrong. I'm not always going to side on the side of a corporation, and I'm not necessarily siding with Starbucks here. I'm just talking about the entitlement of these people. But Starbucks already said they would provide them the shirts, so they don't actually have to go and buy new shirts. Yet they're still crying. It's still not enough. There she is, right there in that video. She's got the black pants already. She's already got the shoes that she works with. So does the other one. Now, I don't want to gender identify these people and misgender them. So they're all three of them, they're probably they, thems anyways. But all three of them, she's got black pants. The other one's got blue pants on. And the other one seems to have black pants on. I can't quite tell. It looks like she might have something else under that. It looks like a skirt. I don't know. But they already look like they're in uniform. What do you mean you can't afford? None of you that are complaining and striking and taking all this time to go out in the streets, none of you own a black shirt. None of you own a pair of black pants. You think you're going to have to go and spend more money? Again, the entitlement of these people is just insane. And this is honestly for nothing. This is the most irrelevant, unnecessary controversy I've ever fucking seen. Every job, or almost every job, has a dress code. And sometimes companies change dress code. And guess what? You either follow it or you quit. Because no one's keeping you at that job. Why don't you go, since you already have barista skills, you already have barista experience, why don't you go and apply at another coffee shop and work there, and they'll probably let you wear whatever you want. Because Starbucks is trying to do one thing, they're trying to revitalize their brand due to slumping sales.
Starbucks is the perfect example of why you should not hire woke, entitled liberals. As you know, Starbucks went back to their traditional uniforms and the liberals are not having it.
This is what we're getting sent home for. So now we have to go buy shoes.
Yeah, it's called a dress code and most companies have them. If your shoes don't fit the dress code, you gotta buy new ones.
Money that they didn't give us.
Yeah, it's called money that you work for.
Our intention when we came into work today is to actually work and follow dress code.
Apparently not, because you failed to read the dress code before you showed up to work and therefore you got sent home for wearing the wrong thing. But liberals will always be victims.
And they sent us home for it. And if we don't come back, it's job abandonment. And we could possibly get a write-up.
Yep, and if I didn't show up to work tomorrow, I would get a write-up too. And if I didn't show up wearing professional attire, I would get sent home. I would also get sent home for having that purple hair.
But we tried our best.
If that's your best, your parents failed you. You see, you're not entitled to work at Starbucks. This is what our squishy society has produced. You don't get to demand that people cater to you. You abide by company policies or you go work somewhere else. American colleges are failing our society.
She said it perfectly. I couldn't have said it better myself. These colleges are just indoctrinating and breeding entitled loser people, victims of society. When they're not actually victims, they live in the most privileged society that has ever existed on the planet. Yet they still complain. Now, are there things wrong with our society? Of course. No society is perfect. I've always said nothing and no one is perfect. We have our problems as a country, as American citizens. America is not a perfect country. I will criticize it when it's time to criticize it. I will criticize companies when it's time to criticize. But I don't think a uniform should be a reason to criticize a company for. Especially when the uniform is not something out of left field. It's not something that's unreasonable, like a black shirt that most people should have one or two of them in their closet. That's kind of insane to me that these people are complaining about having to wear a dress code when before they could wear whatever they want. Companies change and priorities change, and it's all about making that money, right? And you have to understand that you are just an employee at a company. And they're not forcing you to work there. You don't have to work there. You don't have to work nowhere you don't want to. If you don't want to follow anyone's rules, you don't have to. But if you do want to continue working there and you do want to continue to make a paycheck, you have to follow company rules as long as they fall within the law. And there is nothing illegal about this. These people are entitled losers. That's plain and simple. There's no other way to put it. They've been coddled so much their entire lives. It's like I've always said, when you've had privilege your entire life, being treated fairly or equally seems like oppression.
Right now, one of the dumbest protests I've ever heard of is taking place in America, and I'll bet you didn't even hear about it. But basically, on Monday, Starbucks began implementing a new dress code where employees needed to wear a black shirt under their apron, and for their bottoms, they could wear khaki, black, or blue denim. Very simple, very basic dress code. But what are Starbucks employees doing? Almost 2,000 of them have taken it upon themselves to actually go on strike over this dress code. Some individuals are saying they can't afford to buy these new garments, but it's ridiculous because Starbucks themselves said that they would provide every employee with 2 black t-shirts to wear. So miss me with that argument, but this is what happens when you have a generation of entitled individuals who refuse to comply with the most basic guidelines. This is essentially where every company is going to be if they don't begin to push back against this sense of entitlement. And make no mistake, I understand wanting to express yourself, and that's what Starbucks has allowed their employees to do for a long time, but you're missing the point. You are there to make coffee. You are not there to make a statement, personal, political, or what have you. The funny thing about it, though, is it's not even been that impactful. As of last count, even the most heavy hit Starbucks have only been closed for about an hour. But this goes to show you what happens when you allow a younger generation, predominantly, of people to essentially go around the rules or do whatever they think is best. And this mentality really does need to stop.
I think he said it perfectly. Again, him and that other lady articulated it much better than I ever could. And I think, you know, people are just getting older. People are retiring out of companies, and Gen Z will at one point, and the following generations will at one point be the majority of the workforce. And they're coming with that entitlement. That's why there's studies out there, or I've seen articles of employers saying that they don't like to hire Gen Z because the entitlement is through the roof. They don't want to do the job. They want to demand things that aren't necessary to the job. They want to express themselves and cause the most havoc, do the least amount of work, and it's impossible to work with them. And unless a lot of employers start to push back on this, this is only going to get worse. It starts with Starbucks, but it'll end up in most major companies. And it's kind of sad because at some point they will be the majority of employee base. So companies will have no choice but to hire them. But hopefully by then, companies have pushed back enough to the point where these people know that they're just there to collect a paycheck and make their money and not make insane, unreasonable demands of a job and follow the job rules. I just don't understand how that's so hard for them to understand. But this video has gone on long enough, guys. These guys already said pretty much everything I could ever say. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that these employees are correct in striking over the new uniforms? Or do you think Starbucks made the right move here by providing them with the shirts that they're claiming they can't afford to buy? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.